Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So we have discussed, welcome back after the mid semester. Okay, so we had some long break. So just have a quick recap of what we had. So we had discussed three big PDEs. Okay, so one is of course four. Okay, so mainly three big PDEs, which is the second order one, like UT equal to UXX. Okay, and UTT is equal to UXX, and then del U equal to 0. Okay, or simply I can write it as UT equal to del U and UTT is equal to del U. And then apart from that, we have discussed the transport equation also. This was these are all the things we have discussed earlier, and then we have discussed about the quasi-linear, semi-linear, all these things, and how to solve quasi-linear PDEs, etc. Then for wave equation and heat equation also, we have derived some of the separation of variables and some other formulas. So recently we were discussing about the harmonic equations. Okay, means the Laplace equation we were discussing, in which we have discussed about the harmonic functions. So in this class, again, we are going to solve that Laplace equation part only, but with the help of what we have discussed in the heat equation, wave equation, the similar kind of things we are going to use it right now. So what we are going to do is that we are going to derive some formula called mean value formula, and then we'll discuss something called modifiers and other things if time permits. Okay, so probably we'll cover two theorems in this class. One is the mean value formula, another is the maximum minimum principle. These two things we'll cover it. If time permits, we'll go for the modifiers and other things. Okay, so now the theorem is that, so we have that u belongs to c square omega. Okay, which is harmonic if and only if we have this formula. Okay, harmonic if and only if u of x equal to, if we can write it, okay, if it is harmonic, this theorem is saying that you can have this one, dou b of x comma r, okay, u ds equal to integral b of x comma r, okay, average integral u dy. Okay, for each ball, if you take any ball, so omega is my domain. Okay, so if b of x comma r, this is true for all b of x comma r subset of omega. Okay, so which is going to be true for all balls. For each ball, b of x comma r subset of omega. Let us prove this theorem. Okay, so for which we are going to use some of the concepts which we have discussed earlier. Using that, we are going to prove that. So let us take the equation which we have already discussed in wave equation. Okay, so this one we have discussed, integral u of y dsy over dou b of x comma r. This we have already derived in we have discussed already this one in the wave equation formula. So this one I can rewrite it as, okay, so b of x comma r is that I am just writing it as dou b of 0 comma 1. Okay, so I'm just shifting it. Therefore, I got to put the y equal to x plus r z as the substitutions. Therefore, it is going to become like u of x plus r z dsz. Okay, so this one I'm just going to call it as, so this one we have already known from the wave equations derivation somewhere. Okay, once we were discussing about that. This I'm going to call it as pi of r. Okay, pi of r is equal to this one. Then pi dash of r, I'm just going to calculate what is pi dash of r. Okay, so I'm just going to take the derivative of this one. This is going to become like integral, average integral dou b of 0 comma 1. Okay, u of du of x plus r z into z with respect to r I'm differentiating dsz. Okay, so this one again I'm just using this y. So this one I obtained by putting y equal to x plus r z, and then you take the dy dsy, take it, then you will get this one. Okay, so same thing I'm just going to do it over here right now. I'm just substituting this one over here. So therefore this is going to become like integral dou b of x comma r. So this is dou b of x comma r to dou b of 0 comma 1 I'm doing. Now I'm just again going back, dou b of 0 comma 1 to dou b of x comma r. Therefore this is going to become like duy using the same substitution, and z is going to become like y minus x by r. Okay, into ds y is going to come. Dsy is going to come. Okay, but what is this one? Duy into y minus x by r. This is nothing but the normal derivative. Okay, this is going to be the normal derivative. Therefore, this can be written as dou u by dou nu into dsy integral to b of 0, sorry, to b of x, r. Okay, average integral. Now, what we are going to use that we are going to use the Green's formula, or we are going to use the Green's formula. So we know that dou e by dou nu b of x, r in omega, you can take omega also. So in that case, you are going to get, so dou b of x, r, in this case, what is going to become? This is going to become like integral, average integral, b of x, this one I'm going to apply that. Okay, so this is going to become like dou e by dou nu dsy is there, just for the integral we have. Therefore, this one I'm just going to write it as remove the average integral. Therefore, what you are going to get? You are going to get 1 by n into alpha of n. Okay, I'm just applying the formula of that one, the average integral formula. Okay, r power n minus 1 integral dou b of x, r, dou e by dou nu as it is. Okay, dou e by dou nu dsy is going to come. Now this one, okay, this is going to become like this one. This I'm going to write it as. Okay, so I'm just going to apply multiply and divide by r by n. Okay, so this I'm just going to multiply r by n. Therefore, this is going to become like alpha of n is going to come. So it is going to become like r by n into alpha of n into alpha of n into r power n. I'm just multiplying and dividing by r power n into this is going to come. Dou e by dou nu is going to come. Okay, dou e by dou nu dsy is going to come. So this is true. By Green's formula, what I can replace? I can replace this with del u. Okay, this is going to become like 1 by r by n into integral. So remaining things as it is, r by n into alpha of n into r power n is going to come. Okay, so this is going to become like del u dsy is going to come. Sorry, del u dy is going to come, not dsy. Dy is going to come. I'm just using the Green's formula here. Okay, so this one I can write as r by n into. Okay, so these terms are called average. So this one I can write as del u dy again. But what is this one? This is nothing but this is del u is 0. Okay, because I'm just u is harmonic. Therefore, del u is going to become 0. Therefore, this is going to be 0. So that means pi dash of r is going to be 0. Pi dash of r is going to be 0, which implies pi is constant. Okay, pi is constant. So therefore, what you are going to have? So pi of r is going to be, pi is constant. Okay, some constant is going to come. So therefore, that constant I'm just going to take it as, even if you take whatever you want, you can take it. But in limiting case, I'm just going to take it. That also you are going to get that. So pi of r is going to be constant. Okay, therefore, if you take limit t tends to 0 pi of t, that is also going to be the same thing. Or if you take limit any value is going to be approaching, that is also going to be the same thing. Okay, so pi of r is constant. That concept I'm just exploiting, and then I'm going to get pi of r can be written as limit t tends to 0 pi of t, because some constant is going to be obtained. Okay, that constant I'm just going to obtain through this way. So this can be written as limit t tends to 0. What is pi of t? Pi of t is nothing but integral, average integral dou b of x, t u of y into dsy. Okay, so if I allow t tends to 0, what is it going to come? This is a ball. Okay, this ball is there. I'm just allowing b of x, t. That means this is b of x, t is there. X is center and t is the radius. Okay, so t is the radius is there. Now I'm just allowing t tends to 0. That means it is going to be shrinking slowly. Okay, every time it is going to shrink. At last you are going to get only this point. Therefore, this is going to become like u of x only. You are going to get only u of x. Okay, pi of r is going to become like u of x. So limit t tends to 0, dou b of x, t, you are just shrinking it slowly, then you are going to get only u of x. That is the only point you are going to get. Therefore, what I can write? I can write u of x equal to integral dou b of x, r u ds. Okay, because pi of r definition, that is the pi of r definition. That's what we have. That's a pi of r definition. Okay, dou b of x, r u of y into d of x y. That's what I'm using here. So this implies, okay, this I'm just going to write as. So from this one, I can write integral dou b of x, r u ds. I'm just applying the average integral formula here. 1 by n into alpha n r power n minus 1 will come. So that I'm going to multiply here. Therefore, it is going to become like n into alpha of n into r power n minus 1 into u of x is going to come. So what is left to prove is that, what you got to prove is that, you got to prove that, so this part is done already. What we need to prove is that u of x equal to dou b of x comma r uds, we got to prove that we have already proved. Okay, so this part is already done. Part 1 is done already. Now part 2 is that we got to prove that this is equal to, or this is equal to integral u dy, we got to prove it. Okay, so b of x comma r, we got to prove it. Okay, that's what we are going to prove now. So now it is sufficient to prove that we got to prove that, what we got to prove is that we got to prove that u of x equal to integral b of x comma r u dy we got to. Okay, this is part we got to prove when u is harmonic. Let us prove that. So for this, actually, you need some more concepts actually, which is called co-area formula, which I leave it to you as an exercise problem to prove it. Of course, that proof is available in some of the notes. Okay, some of the professor's notes, you can see that. So I'll just show that. Okay, what is co-area formula? Yeah. So in this one, you can check that. Okay, what is the co-area formula for W1P function? Okay, so using this, what you can prove is that you can obtain using the method theory concept, etc. He has obtained, but we are not going to. I'm not going to explain those things. Okay, we are just going to grab the formula only. Okay, so this one you can just check it, and then you can do it as an exercise problem. This is already given. So what we are going to do is that we are going to use this for the proving these results. Okay, for proving this result, we are going to take it. So in other words, it is a curvilinear Pubbini's theorem. You know the Pubbini's theorems in the calculus course, in the real analysis course you might have studied. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to use it for this spherical integration formula, we are going to use it. Okay, so using which we are going to prove that. So what is that? From that theorem, the curvilinear Pubbini's theorem or co-area formula, from which what you can obtain is that you can obtain this one, integral r power n. Okay, this result you can obtain f dx can be written as, I'm just going to take 0 to infinity, okay, 0 to infinity, integral dou b of x comma r, okay, f ds into dr. So what I'm doing is that using the integration continuous integral function, f is a continuous integral function, okay, the spherical integration formula. So in order to find r power n f dx, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to convert it into a problem of spherical functions format. Okay, so where I will be defining this one, dou b of x comma r, this fds I will be defining, and then I'm just going to make the r from 0 to infinity, then automatically it is going to be covering all the complete r power n is going to be covering. Okay, that is the co-area formula is going to be explaining. Means in order to integrate for the entire domain, almost you have did that in many of the problems, especially when you have dealt with integrations, improper integral. Mostly the improper integral, what you have done is that mostly if it is minus infinity to infinity, you used to do this one. Okay, if it is minus infinity to infinity, you may not know how to do. So in that case, you will be obtaining like this, limit r tends to infinity, where you will put minus r to r, and then you will do that. Almost similar kind of technique is used here. Okay, what they are going to do is that in the case of real line, it is going to be like instead of minus infinity to infinity, what I will do is that I will take minus r comma r, and then I will just integrate that, and then allow r to r tends to infinity, then I will obtain the formula. Almost similar kind of concept we are going to do it here. So I'm just going to obtain a spherical, okay, where a boundary I will be obtaining, and then I will just obtaining that integral. Then I will allow r tends to r is from 0 to infinity, then it is going to be obtained. A similar kind of formula. Okay, so this is the co-area formula which you can check it. Okay, so that is the basic idea behind that. So in particular, so this is the general co-area formula. In particular, what you can obtain is that you can obtain the same thing. Okay, so it is minus infinity to infinity. I have, so the r power n means entire region I'm going to take. Instead, suppose I want to take a b of x comma r. Okay, again I can use the same formula. In this case, what it is going to come, instead of 0 to infinity, it is going to become 0 to r. Okay, 0 to r. Then this is going to become like, I'm just going to put dou b of x comma s. Okay, f ds into ds. Okay, so this is some dummy parameter. Okay, yes, because there is a r here, that's the reason I'm just replacing it with yes. Okay, so this is the for the same thing. Here it was entire domain 0 to infinity I obtained, but this is a bounded one, so 0 to r is sufficient for me. Okay, so in particular case of the coarea formula. Now what we are going to do is that we are going to obtain the same thing for this one. We are just trying to find using this formula. We are going to do that. So let us do that. So what I'm going to have, integral b of x comma r u dy, okay, which is nothing but integral. So I got to use the formula 1 by alpha of n, the average formula, okay, b of x comma r into u dy, which can be written as, so this formula I'm going to use it. So 1 by alpha of n into r power n, use this formula. Okay, so this I'm going to use it, 0 to r. Okay, and then this is going to become like integral dou b of x comma s u ds into ds. Okay, so I know this one, okay, from the previous one. From this one, I know what is the value for this one. Okay, so u of x is nothing but, integral dou b of x comma s u ds I know, which is nothing but n into alpha of n into r power n minus 1 u of x. So that one I'm going to use it here. Therefore, this is going to become like 1 by alpha of n into r power n. Okay, so integral 0 to r. So this one I can replace with this one. So that is going to become like n into alpha of n into, okay, r power n. So in that place I got to put s power n minus 1. Okay, into u of x, okay, into u of x ds, smallest, okay, smallest ds. Now this is simple one. So this you can integrate. So alpha and get cancelled. Okay, then if you integrate this one, this is going to become like x power n by n will get cancelled. So you apply r here, r power n will get cancelled. So you are going to get simply only u of x. Only u of x is going to come. Okay, the other limit is going to become 0 because s power n by so that is going to become like nothing will be there, so only u of x is going to come. Okay, so therefore what you are going to get, that's all. Okay, only u of x is going to come. Okay, now what we are going to have, so u of x is going to become like, that's what I want. This is the one I want to prove. So I started from the left hand side, right hand side, and then I reached the left hand side. Okay, so this part is done. We have done only one part, means only if part we have done. Now converse part we got to do. Suppose u is not harmonic. Okay, so what I need to prove is that, suppose this is true, what we need to prove is that we need to prove two things. One is u is harmonic, then we got to prove u of x equal to integral b of x, average integral b of x comma u dy we got to prove, and then the same thing is going to be the average. This one also I got to prove. Okay, the this part also I got to prove, that I got proved already. Now what I need to assume is that I got to assume that this is going to be that. Okay, u of x equal to this is going to be that. These two are going to be that. Okay, u of x is there, and then I have dou b of x comma r u ds is there. Okay, both are there. For each ball, it is going to be satisfied. Now what I need to prove is that this implies that I got to prove that u is harmonic. I got to prove u is harmonic. Okay. Now what I'm going to assume is that I'm going to assume u is not harmonic. Then what is the consequence is going to come? Let us see. This is very simple. Okay. Suppose u is not harmonic, then the Rx is a ball. Okay. If it is u is not harmonic, then what is it going to say? The Rx is a ball b of x comma r such that u is not harmonic means, if u is not harmonic, that means the Rx is a ball. Okay, the Rx is a ball b of x comma r such that del u is not equal to 0. Okay, del u is not equal to 0. That means either del u can be greater than 0 or del u can be less than 0. So I'm just going to assume del u is greater than 0. Without loss of generality, I'm going to assume del u greater than 0. Within that b of x comma r, it is going to be there. Then what we have, this is independent of whatever assumptions we have. This pi of r is independent of whatever assumptions we have. Okay, and pi dash of r is independent of whatever assumptions we have. So in that case, what you are going to have is that you are going to have pi dash of r is going to become like, what you are going to have is that r by n into integral p of x comma r into del u dy is going to come. But del u is greater than 0, therefore this is going to be greater than 0 or not equal to 0. At least you are going to get not equal to 0. Okay, not equal to 0 is going to come. Okay, so del u is greater than 0, therefore you are going to have del u r by n b of x comma r del u dy is going to be greater than 0. So in that case, what you are going to have, your pi dash of r is not going to be constant. That means it is a contradiction. Contradiction to what? If pi dash of r is equal to 0, then only you are going to get these results. Okay, therefore, what you are going to get is that this is not equal to 0 means you are not going to get into this this problem. If this will not be true, this will not be true, but this is true for all each ball it is assumed. But for if u is not harmonic, okay, if u is, we assume that u is not harmonic. Okay, u is not harmonic, we can assume u is not harmonic means there exists b of x comma r. Therefore, this is going to be a contradiction. Okay, therefore, our assumption that u is not harmonic is not correct. Therefore, it is going to be true. So that's all for this proof. Okay, so u is harmonic means this should be true. This is true for all each ball x in R, then u is going to be harmonic. Okay, I'm not sure whether this were covered in complex variable course. Okay, but this is one of the important aspect which you can get it from the PDE course. In complex variables also, complex analysis course also, you might have studied this harmonic and other things, but this is one of the important concept which is going to be helpful for some of the next theorem. Okay, so that next theorem is another important principle using which many of the physics problem and many of the engineering problems are exploiting some of the properties of this one. Okay, let us see that what is maximum minimum principle. So the maximum minimum principle is going to say something about obtaining the maximum. Okay, what it is going to say is that I'm just going to have maximum of u. Suppose the maximum u is obtained at omega. Suppose omega is my domain. Okay, if it is, we will have some assumptions of that. Okay, maximum of omega u is going to be maximum of u dou omega. So this is one of the beautiful result actually. What is it going to? What is this? Let us. We are going to say what is the omega is going to be there. Okay, we'll see. I will tell you that. So this theorem is very beautiful. It is saying that suppose you have a domain. Okay, you have a domain. Okay, suppose u is going to be harmonic within this omega. Then what it is going to be that, so saying is that suppose you want to search some maximum of the your function u. It is not necessary that you need to search the functions values of the within that domain. Instead, it is sufficient to search that in the boundary part only. Okay, for example, suppose my domain is something like minus r2, r is there. Okay, just assume that my domain is like this. Okay, so I have a interval. Okay, I have an interval. I want to find maximum. There are infinitely many values are there. Okay, in this case, there are infinitely many values are going to be there. Now, suppose my u is harmonic. Okay, what this theorem is going to say, you don't search for that over here, since it is the omega is going to be connected and other things is going to be there. Don't search for that over the domain. Okay, instead search it on the boundary only. Then both are going to be same. Okay, both are going to be same. That is the theorem. That is the theorem it is going to say. Okay, so there are two parts of this theorem. Okay, we'll prove that. This is one of the beautiful things. So instead of searching for a infinitely many, you are going to search it only in the two places over here. Now imagine the same thing for the r power n. Suppose you want to search it in the entire region. You reduced one dimensions enormously. Okay, one dimension is reduced means completely you just move from r power n to r power n minus 1. You have moved because you are going to search it in the boundary only. Boundary is going to be r power n minus 1. It is not going to be r power n 1. Okay, so that means your job is going to be reduced a lot. So this is the one very beautifully they will use it in many of the problems in physics and other things. For example, if you want to search it something on the domain, okay, some domain you have, okay, you have some domain. So what you need to do is that you need to suppose this the property of that function which is going to be satisfying this u, okay, that is going to be harmonic and your domain is not having any disconnectivity, etc. Then in order to search what is the maximum value which is obtained by that, either it is a temperature or it is some other parameters, you don't need to search it in the entire region because that is very difficult, because the domain may be like completely filled with some material properties, etc. You have to scan it and then you have to. In order to avoid that, suppose your u is satisfying this one, don't search for everywhere, just search it only in the boundary. That is also going to give you the maximum thing. Okay, because many places you need to identify what is the maximum value obtained by that some bounded domain, etc. Okay, so that is one of the beautiful property. Okay, so let us prove this one. Let me state the theorem and then let us prove it. what is it going to say? If omega is connected, okay, omega, suppose U belongs to C square omega intersection C, U belongs to C square omega intersection C omega bar. Okay, means it should be twice differentiable and continuous. Okay, and then with respect to the omega bar, it should be continuous at least. Okay, and is harmonic. U is harmonic within omega. Okay, suppose this omega is connected. Omega is connected. Okay, and there exists a point x naught. There exists a point x naught in omega, such that U of x naught equal to maximum over omega, U is there. Okay, then what it is going to say? This is going to say U is constant. U is constant within omega. If such a point is going to exist, then U is going to be constant within omega. Then second part is going to say this one, maximum of U equal to maximum of U into omega. So let us prove both of the things. Let us prove the first part. Suppose there exists a point. Okay, suppose there exists a point. So the proof is as follows. Suppose there exists a point x naught. Okay, there exists a point x naught such that x naught in omega, such that U of x naught equal to M, which I am just defining as maximum of U. So what I need to prove? So omega is connected, it is given x naught belongs to omega such that U of x naught equal to maximum of U is there. What I need to prove is that I need to prove that U is constant. U is constant within omega, means for all values in omega, it should be constant. That's what I'm going to prove. So from this one, what I can do is that, so there exists a, then for 0 less than or equal to r less than or equal to the distance between, I'm just going to take the distance between this x naught and the dou omega. Okay, I'm just going to define my r such that 0 less than or equal to r less than or equal to distance between this x naught, which is existing, and dou omega. Okay, that is going to be there. Then according to the mean value property, what I have is that I have this one, M equal to U of x naught equal to, okay, U of x naught equal to integral B of x naught comma r. This is from the mean value property. Okay, U dy is going to be there. Okay, so this is going to be, since my U is maximum of U, therefore what you are going to have, suppose your U of x naught is M. Okay, the maximum of the omega is going to be M. Therefore, this U dy is going to be also less than or equal to is going to be there. Okay, because this is the maximum. Therefore, whatever value you are going to take, that is going to be less than or equal to M. Okay, this is going to be less than or equal to M. U of x naught is going to be integral B of x naught comma r U dy less than or equal to M is going to come. So here the equality will hold only if, when it is going to happen, only if U is identically equal to M within B of x naught comma r. Only in that case the equality is going to come. Okay, so that means what I have U of y is going to become like M for all y in B of x comma r, for all y in B of x naught x comma r. Okay, so U of y equal to M for all x comma. So this B of x naught comma r I have chosen. Okay, so now this is going to be true for all y in B of x comma r. So therefore what I can take is that I can take omega 1. So I'm just going to define something called omega 1. Omega 1 is going to be set of all x belongs to omega such that U of x equal to M. I don't know whether it is going to be true for all x in that one. So I'm just going to define some omega 1, which is nothing but set of all x belongs to M, set of all x belongs to omega such that U of x is equal to M. Now U of y equal to M. Okay, this is going to be set of all x belongs to omega, U of x equal to M. So what is this set is going to be there? Okay, we know that U of y equal to U equal to M within B of x comma r and U of y equal to M for all y in B of x comma r. Therefore, certainly I can say that it is open. Okay, this omega 1 is going to be open because U of x equal to M is going to be satisfied for all y in B of x comma r. B of x comma r is a ball. So ball is open. Okay, and also we can say that it is relatively closed in omega. You can prove that it is relatively closed in omega. Okay, so if it is relatively closed in omega, what you can prove is that this is again from the properties of the real analysis case where you have studied about the connectedness, etc. So if omega is going to be connected, then what you are going to have is that your omega 1 is going to become like omega. When it is going to happen? Only if omega is connected. This property I'm going to use it. Okay. If omega is connected, this one and this one is going to be same. Okay. So therefore, what you are going to get? So your this one, omega 1 and omega is going to be same. Therefore, what you are going to have? Your u is going to be, because here u is constant, x belongs to omega, u of x equal to m I have taken. Since omega is open, omega 1 is open and omega is connected, what you are going to have is that you are going to have omega 1 equal to omega. Therefore, u is m all the places. That means u is constant within omega. Okay, that's all. The second part follows immediately. I don't need to give any proof for that. Okay, since u is constant within omega, what I have is that you take the closure of this one and then you can prove that also. Okay, so that is going to be the same thing. Either you take it over here or you take it over there, you are going to get that. So the second part follows immediately, just which I'm just leaving it to you as an exercise. Just one line proof for that. So what is it saying is that the first part of the theorem, okay, this part of the theorem is saying this, it is called strong maximum principle. This part of the theorem is called strong maximum principle. The second part, this is called maximum principle. Okay, second part of the theorem is saying about maximum principle. This is strong maximum. This is maximum principle. So if you replace u by minus u, okay, wherever I have u, if you replace by u by minus u, then you are going to get strong minimum principle. In this case, you are going to get strong minimum principle over this case. Okay, so these are some of the observations or remarks. Then what you have, suppose u equal to f. Suppose u is going to be, this u is going to be f on some dou omega. Okay, in the boundary, suppose it is going to be dou omega. Okay, so my u is harmonic, etc. I have now. Suppose u equal to f, because when I have this problem del u equal to 0, what I have to do is that I will put some conditions, boundary conditions, etc. Right? Suppose u equal to f on dou omega. On the boundary, I have dou on the boundary I have u equal to f, and I assume that f is greater than or equal to 0 also. Okay, f is greater than or equal to 0. Then this is going to say, from this one, what you can say is that suppose f is greater than or equal to 0 on dou omega. Okay, that means your u is going to be positive everywhere in omega. Okay, suppose positive, it is positive somewhere on dou omega. Suppose this f is positive somewhere on dou omega. Okay, then from this principle you can say that your u is going to be positive everywhere, because your u is going to be maximum of u dou omega is going to be there. Okay, so therefore you are going to get, this is going to be completely positive everywhere. Okay, that's what you are going to get. So that means this is another interesting property. So what you have is that suppose on the boundary of the domain, okay, on the boundary of the domain, so you have some principle is covered by some physical quantity or some, let us say, some temperature, etc. is there. What you have is that suppose you have a domain. Okay, suppose you have a domain. You have a domain omega, okay, which is satisfying this connectedness, etc. Okay, in this problem, so this is going to satisfy del u equal to 0 in omega and u equal to f in dou omega. Okay, so this is in omega and this is in dou omega. Now what I have is that I want to see what is my u. Okay, whether suppose my f is here, this dou omega part. Okay, in the dou omega part, suppose my f is positive. Okay, then what this theorem is going to assert is that it is going to assert that your u is going to be positive everywhere. Therefore, if you just make a small disturbance in your dou omega, that is going to affect everywhere in the domain. So this, suppose this is going to be positive at some places, then this is going to be propagate everywhere, and then you are going to get that. For example, this is one of the important problem which they studied in the electric potential. Okay, or if you take some heat equations, etc. What they used to do is that, say they apply some forces, some heat sources or some electric potential they are going to apply. So if it is positive over here, then that is going to affect the entire thing, and there you are going to get the domain is going to be positive everywhere. Means you are going to get some disturbance over here. Okay, although you can be like this f is going to be positive only, I'm just going to put it over here, then you are going to get disturbance everywhere. Okay, positive somewhere on omega. Okay, f is positive somewhere on omega, then it is going to be positive everywhere in omega. Very important property. Okay, f is positive somewhere here, but it is going to be everywhere. Okay, so which is obtained due to this maximum principles. Also, we can prove that okay, we can prove the uniqueness solution of boundary value problems for Poisson equation using the maximum principle. Okay, you can prove the uniqueness solutions of the boundary value problem, which I am just going to prove it in the next one. Okay, so next theorem, the last point what I have mentioned, that we are going to prove it. So suppose you have a f. Okay, suppose I'm going to solve a Poisson equation. Okay, f belongs to C of dou omega. Okay, and h belongs to C of omega. Okay, so I have two functions f and h. Then there exists a solution. Okay, there exists a solution u in C square omega intersection C of omega bar. Okay, of the boundary value problem. Okay, the boundary value problem is minus del u equal to f. This is the Poisson equation, and u is equal to one sec. H belongs to f belongs to C dou omega. So this is going to be h actually. There's a mistake here. This would be minus del u equal to h. Okay, minus del u equal to h in omega, and u is equal to f in dou omega. Okay, so this would be not f, minus del u equal to h is there. So in this case, what I'm going to have is that I got to prove that there is a unique, at most one solution. That means I got to prove at most one solution. There is a unique solution I got to prove. Okay. So what I have, let us assume that suppose there are two solutions, u1 and u2 are two solutions of this equation. Okay, this equation. That means what I have, I am just going to define w is equal to u1 minus u2. Then what it is going to be satisfied? So u1 is going to be satisfied in this one. Therefore, I am going to have del u1 equal to h is going to be there. And u2 is also going to be satisfied. Therefore, del u2 equal to h is going to be there. Apart from that, I have u1 equal to f in dou omega, and u2 is equal to f in dou omega is going to be there. Now del u1 and del u2 equal to h. Therefore, w. So this implies del w, okay, minus del w equal to. So it is going to be del u1 minus del u2. So h going to cancel. You are going to get 0 here. Okay. So therefore, you can use the maximum principle. Okay, strong maximum principle, from which what you can obtain is that, so here u1 is equal to f and u2 is equal to f. Therefore, u1 w is also going to be 0 in the boundary of the domain. Okay, so if it is positive, then it is going to be positive everywhere. It is 0, therefore it is going to be 0 everywhere. So maximum, okay, u is equal to f in dou omega, and w. So from this one you have, this is del w equal to 0 in omega, and you have w equal to 0 in dou omega. Why? Because u1 equal to f and u2 equal to f in dou omega. Therefore, w equal to 0 in dou omega. Therefore, according to the maximum principle, what you are going to have, your maximum u, maximum w actually, maximum w is going to be 0. Okay, because w equal to 0 in dou omega. Therefore, this is going to be 0. If this is 0, then your maximum u is going to be 0 within the omega. If maximum u is going to be 0, therefore you are going to get your u is going to become 0. Therefore, what you are going to have, you are going to have w is going to become 0. W is identically 0 actually, which implies u1 equal to u2. Okay. Okay. So next one, this is a little advanced concept. What we are going to discuss. We are going to move slowly to something called Sobolev spaces and other things. Okay, for which I'm just going to give the introduction part only, using which we are going to prove some of the things. If you have any doubts so far, let me know. We are going little advanced concept right now, which is called modifiers. Okay. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. So let us go to the next concept called modifiers. Okay. So now next what we have is that we have so far what we have discussed is that if you, although we talk about PDE, mostly these are all connected to the integrable only. Okay, because we, in order to solve the problem, you have to have something like integrable functions, etc. is going to be there. Okay, now it is not necessary that your PDE is going to be see, suppose you have a PDE. Okay, suppose you have some du equal to some f is there. Okay, some differential operator which is going to be the partial differential operator equal to f is there. Now what we have is that for this PDE to be satisfied, so this let us say x belongs to some omega. Okay, so in order to find the things, what you need to do is that you got to check whether your u is going to be integrable in this domain, whether it is going to be exist or not, that you got to check it. Okay, it is not necessary that it is always going to be there. Now what we are going to do is that in all the cases, it may not be true that your u is going to be completely on the domain, it is going to be integrable. Instead, I'm just going to restrict to some domain. In that, it may be integrable. Okay, I'm just going to assume something in that it is going to be integrable, means I'm going to take the LP measurable, etc. So according to that, I'm just going to declare some of the problems, okay, which is called we are going to say something like distribution theory, etc. is going to come, in which suppose your input data is going to be discontinuous. Okay, if it is discontinuous, see, if it is integrable functions, you might have seen in the Riemann integrable, etc. What you require is that your u should be continuous. Okay, if u is continuous, you know that it is going to be integrable. Now, suppose your u is not continuous. Instead, you have something like discontinuity is going to be there. In that case, is it not possible to solve the PD at all? That is the question. Okay, it is not true that you cannot solve that. You will solve that discontinuity which you obtained it in the boundary of the problem or wherever you have cut, that is going to be propagate along everywhere. Okay, so that's what we are going to discuss in this one, which is called distribution theory, etc. is going to come. So now what we are going to do is that we are going to prove something called we are going to explain some properties called modifiers, etc., using which we are going to study that. So for which we require some concept called locally integrable. Okay, you know already integrable. Okay, also you know what is Lebesgue integrable. You know integrable and what is Lebesgue integrable, etc. You might know. Okay, so integrable means, like if I say integrable, it means like it is a Riemann integrable. Okay, if you say like measure integrable with respect to measure or Lebesgue integral, if I say, then it is with respect to the Lebesgue measure, whatever measure I'm talking about. If it is locally integrable, we are going to discuss now. Okay, this is a new concept you are going to learn. So suppose I have a omega subset of R power n. It's an open set. Okay, it's an open set. Now I'm going to say this omega, okay, this omega 1, I'm just going to denote this one, okay, which is read as compactly contained. Okay, this is two subset symbol. If I put this is read as compactly contained in omega. Omega 1 is compactly contained in omega. Okay, so we say omega 1 is compactly contained in omega. So that is what is the meaning of this one. This meaning is that the meaning of this symbol is that omega 1, okay, which is a subset of omega 1 bar, okay, it should be omega and is compact. Okay, so omega 1, so it is obvious. Okay, omega 1 subset of omega 1 bar, that also should be a subset of omega and that is compact. Okay, so this is called this symbol. Okay, this symbol is called compactly contained in omega. Compactly contained, it means you take any open set and take the closure. That closures also should be subset of omega and that should be compact. Okay, so in that case we say that this is compactly contained in omega. So locally integrable, the definition is as follows. Okay, you know already the Lebesgue integrable. I'm just using the similar kind of thing. So L log P of omega, which I'm going to write it as set of all f belongs to omega to R, okay, such that f belongs to LP of omega 1, okay, for all omega 1 subset of, compactly contained in omega. Okay, so if I just put f from omega to R such that f belongs to LP1 of LP of omega, then it is simply called as Lebesgue integrable. Okay, if I put LP of omega, so you know the LP of omega definition. LP of omega is something like set of all f from omega to R such that f belongs to the integral fx dx is less than infinity. This is the LP of f omega definition. Now LP of local omega is nothing but it should belongs to here and for not for omega, for each omega 1. That omega 1 is compactly contained in 1. Okay, so f from omega to R is measurable. Okay, it is suppose f is a measurable function, then we say that f belongs to, okay, suppose, so this is actually not this one. One sec. So this should be LP of omega, means it should be f is measurable. F is LP measurable. Okay, that means what? You just take integral f power p dx whole power 1 by p is less than infinity. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, so now this might be already, so I'm just skipping that. So what we have is that, so if this f local of L log P of omega means it should be belongs to LP of omega 1, where omega 1 is compactly contained in omega. So suppose f is measurable, okay, f is omega to r is measurable. Okay, we say f belongs to L log of 1 of omega. Okay, if and only if, when we say integral over r mod fx dx is less than infinity for all. Okay, so this is k. Okay, for all k omega, I should say, but this I can write it as the same thing equivalently. I can write, okay, for all compact subset of k. Okay, this k can be compact. So here I have mentioned, as per this definition, it should be omega 1 subset of omega. So in this case, you can equivalently prove that for all compact subsets of omega also, if it is true, then it is going to be, the f is going to be L log of omega. That means you just skip some of the checking, like whether omega 1 subset of omega 1 bar subset of omega is compact, etc. Instead of that, what you can take is that you just verify whether it is true for all compact subset of omega, then also it is going to be true. Okay, that is the alternative or equivalent way to check for that. So what are all the functions which are locally integrable? Okay, so constant function defined on real line is locally integrable. Okay, constant functions defined on real line is locally integrable, but not globally integrable. Why? Is constant functions integrable for the entire domain? Suppose I have f of x equal to c on entire domain. Okay, on r power n, let us see. Is it integrable function? Is it integrable? What is this one? Suppose, so let us take r minus infinity to infinity f of x dx. What is the value of this one? Will it be integrable? Will it have some finite value?
No.
No, right? So that means it is not globally integrable. Okay, it is not globally integrable. But if I take any compact subset, okay, if I take any compact subset, in that case it is going to be integrable because it is compact. So I can say that it is going to be finite one. Okay, compact means it is going to be bounded. Okay, it is going to be bounded. Therefore, C into whatever the measure of this one, you are going to get that. Therefore, it is going to be integrable. Okay, so locally it is integrable. Constant function. If I put f of x equal to c on some omega, okay. So in this case, it is going to be on r power n also I can define. Okay, so this is going to be on real line, or I'm just first line, I'm just defining only real line. So f of x equal to c on r, it is going to be locally integrable, but not globally integrable because it is going to have an infinite measure. Okay, the infinite measure is going to be there, therefore it is going to be there. How about continuous functions? Continuous functions are locally integrable. Okay, similarly, integrable function, if you take any integrable function, it is going to be locally integrable. And if I take this function f of x equal to 1 by x, okay, where x belongs to 0, 1, is it globally integrable? Is this function globally integrable? This function, what is this integral? What is the integral is going to be? Will it be globally integrable, or will it exist? What will be the value? Will it be less than infinity or not? What is the integral of this one? 1 by x dx
Do not exist.
Do not exist. Okay, so it is not globally integrable. But if you take any compact subset, okay, compact subset of k 0, 1, which has a positive distance from 0 and 1, then f is bounded on that k. Therefore, it is going to be locally integrable. Okay, this is not globally integrable, but locally integrable. Okay, because if you take any compact subset of 0, 1, which has a positive distance from 0 and 1, it should not be near 0, it should not be near 1 also, because it is saying this distance between the k and 0 should be positive, and distance between k and 1 also should be positive. That means it is far away from 0 and 1. Therefore, you are going to get locally the integrability is going to come. See, the integrability will not come only at the place where this 1 is going to be there or 0 is going to be there, because log 0, you don't have definition for that, and log 1, it is going to be 0. So therefore, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to define in this way, then what is going to happen? It is going to be integrable. Okay, locally integrable is going to come. So in fact, you can prove this one also. 1 by x belongs to L log 1 of R difference 0. Okay, this also you can prove it. If you remove that, it is going to be there. Similarly, if I define f of x equal to 1 by x, if x equal to x not equal to 0 and 0, so this is my f of x. Okay, so equal to 1 by x if x equal to x not equal to 0, 0 if x equal to 0. This is not locally integrable. Okay, this is not locally integrable. It is not locally integrable in x equal to 0. So for more details about what is these things, you can just attend one of the distribution theory courses, etc. In that case, you will see that. Okay. Now this one we are going to use it for some of the problems which we are going to deal with in the PDE course. Okay. So what we have is that I'll just explain modifier and then I will complete the class. Then we'll prove some of the properties of the modifiers in the next class. Okay. So what I have is that these are some of the observations you can get it from the locally integrable functions. So locally integrable functions form a linear space. It is going to be a linear space. Locally integrable function is going to be a linear space. And this LP of L log of P is a metrizable space. Means that you can just assign some metric and then you can prove that it is metrizable. Okay, complete metrizable means it is complete. You know the complete, right? So you take a Cauchy sequence and then it is going to be convergence, etc. So the complete is going to be there. So complete metrizable space is going to be there. And if you take any function in LP of omega, that is going to be locally integrable because it is already globally integrable. Therefore, automatically it's a locally integrable. Okay. And then we have some theorems for this locally integrable. Okay. So this theorem is going to talk about, suppose f is a function from r power n to r is locally integrable. Locally integrable. Okay. Then for almost every point, okay, for almost every point x in r power n or x naught in r power n, if I take integral b of x naught comma r f dx, okay, this is going to be, so if I put limit r tends to 0, this is going to be simply f of x naught. Okay, so this is called Lebesgue differentiation theorem. Okay, so same thing you can prove it like the other way also. What you can do is that, so limit r tends to 0, integral f of x modulus of f of x naught into dx is going to be, so this is equal to 0. Okay, this is going to be there. So this theorem is also without proof. You can just refer some of the distribution theory books for this. So the point, so this point where this is going to be hold, okay, the point at which the x naught is going to be hold for this one, okay, the point at which this is going to be hold, that point is called Lebesgue point. This point is called Lebesgue point of f. Okay. Okay. So these are all some of the theorems which we have for some of the proof which we are going to do. So I'll just introduce the modifiers and then I will let us discuss the remaining part in the next class. So what is modifiers? Okay, you know already the Gaussian distributions, other things. A similar kind of concept is going to be here. Okay, that is called modifiers. Okay, what is we have is that n belongs to C infinity of R, means it is a infinitely differentiable. It is called smooth function also. Eta belongs to C infinity of R power n. Okay, we are going to define as follows: eta of x equal to C e power or exponential of 1 by mod x square minus 1 if mod x is less than 1. Okay, 0 if mod x is greater than or equal to 1. here the constant C is constant. Okay, this constant C is selected in such a way that if I just integrate this eta dx over r power n, it should be 1. Okay. In this case, we call eta is called the standard modifier. So this is called the definition of modifier. We are going to use this to prove some of the theorems and some of the properties for our Laplace equations proof, etc. Okay, so that we will deal with in the next class. So in the next class, we will discuss about the modifier properties. Okay, so what is how to introduce any functions with the modifiers. Okay, how to convert that. So if I have any locally integrable function, I can just define modification. And then we will discuss some of the modifier properties. Apart from that, okay, using the Lebesgue theorem also will prove some properties of modifiers. Then we will see about the regularity. Okay, how it is going to be helpful for the proving the Laplace equation to identify the analyticity, etc. Okay, the regularity we'll see it in the next class. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, because this is the smoothness part we require, which is one of the important part for the Navier-Stokes equation, etc. I have introduced at the second or third part of the lecture, third lecture, I think, where this is unsolved problem. Okay, the regularity of the Navier-Stokes equation is unsolved problem. Whereas for the harmonic equation and some of the equations, we got the regularity theory. Okay, because the regularity theory is going to give us some idea about whether you are going to get some existence and uniqueness or some sort of smoothness is going to be obtained in your problem. Okay, that continuous dependence, etc. Okay, so this I'll stop the lecture. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, thank you. If you don't have any questions, thank you.
Thank you, sir.